For 36 years, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has ruled over the country. The Islamic Republic's hardline, anti-West stance and links to terror groups has left it relatively isolated. So, what would happen if the leadership were to be overthrown? And is that even a possibility? Hello and welcome to Roundtable. I'm Enda Brady. Now, the US has been giving conflicting messages on regime change in Iran, with President Trump saying it could make Iran great again, although he later downplayed that idea. Other senior US officials, including the Vice President JD Vance, have stressed that was not the aim of US military action. The Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, has openly supported leadership change in Iran, but how much of a difference would it make to the country?
Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei has ruled the country since 1989. Now at 86, he is in hiding as Israel steps up threats on Iranian leadership. Religious leaders have been in control of Iran since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, when Iran's pro-West King Mohammad Reza Pahlavi was overthrown. For decades, the regime distanced itself from the West, shut down opposition, and resisted sanctions and isolation. But today it's facing something much more direct. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that hitting Iran's supreme leader would end the conflict between Israel and Iran, not make it worse. Later, President Trump hinted at regime change, saying if Iran's leaders cannot make Iran great again, then why wouldn't there be a regime change? Although later downplayed this, saying he didn't want to see chaos. But even though there might be a possibility, can it be really effective?
Usually foreign interventions don't bring democracy and everything. We've seen examples, Iraq, Syria now, all these countries that we have seen, Libya, another example.
The escalation began on June 12 with Israeli strikes on nuclear and military sites, even a prison. But is there enough opposition inside Iran to topple the regime? Sources in Iran say a small group of clerics are working fast to choose who will replace Khamenei. But will this make any real difference to the country and region?
Well, let's meet our guests. Here with me in the studio, we have Edward Knudsen. He is a doctoral researcher in international relations. That's at the University of Oxford. He's also an affiliate policy fellow in European political economy. From Reigate in Surrey, we have Paul Ingram. He's academic program manager. That's at the Centre for the Study of Existential Risk. And joining us from London, Fawaz Gerges. He is a professor of international relations at the London School of Economics and Political Science. You're all very welcome to this roundtable. Fawaz, to you, first of all, do you think leadership change in Iran was always the game plan for Israel and the United States this past couple of weeks?
Well, I don't think the Trump administration had any of a strategic aim to bring about regime change in Tehran. I think Benjamin Netanyahu basically has made it implicitly clear that he wants regime change in Tehran. He has been working very hard since the 1990s to really get the United States to attack Iran, and not only to destroy Iran's nuclear program, but ultimately and ideally to change the regime in Tehran. And if you see what Israel has been doing in the past 12 days, Israel did not just attack Iran's nuclear program. Israel attacked Iran's industrial infrastructure, gas, oil, police stations, railway stations. I mean, literally, even President Macron basically criticized Israel. He said, look, if you are really trying to destroy Iran's nuclear program, why do you basically target the industrial and economic infrastructure in Iran? And what we need to understand is not just Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu and his extremist coalition believe that Iran is the big prize. Iran is the ultimate prize. Iran is the head of the snake, that is the snake, the head of the axis of resistance. And in this particular sense, I think regardless of whether Benjamin Netanyahu has succeeded or not in bringing about a regime a change, the biggest winner, who is the biggest winner? It's Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu is the biggest winner because he basically outmaneuvered and outsmarted and basically outplayed President Trump and got President Trump to basically target Iran's three major nuclear facilities and destroy as much as they could of the infrastructure in Iran.
Thanks, Fawaz. Paul, to you, do you go along with that the big winner in all of this is Netanyahu?
I would today, but I think if we were to look into the future, I think it might be a little bit different. I mean, just to take one example, the Iranians are closer to the ability to threaten Israel in the future as a direct result of these military campaigns, because the Iranian people are rallying around the flag. The nuclear material is no longer under the control of the agency. And I would be extremely surprised if there were not centrifuges spinning as we speak elsewhere in the country, not under safeguards. So this very elaborate system that the international community built up with the agreement of Iran to maintain some kind of control over the nuclear program has been quite literally shot to pieces, but not in the way that we're being told by President Trump, as in blown to smithereens, but the actual control processes have gone. So I think that Netanyahu may well be the victor right now, today, in this very, very fragile ceasefire. But I think in the longer run, the real losers, including Netanyahu himself, are those states that depend upon an international rules-based order that has been operating to the benefit of Western states, including Israel itself. And that Trump just very recently has been talking about that his fear of chaos if there's regime change in Iran. We have chaos at a much greater level across the whole international community as we wake up today. And I do fear for multilateralism.
Thanks, Paul. Edward, to you, do you think they've used the nuclear issue as a kind of very convenient reason to go after the leadership in Tehran? Was that always the plan?
I mean, almost certainly. When you look at the history of this, there have been these kind of scaremongering news stories about how Iran is months away from a bomb, and they have been for about 4 decades now. Obviously, putting that in scare quotes. And so, yeah, it provides this pretext for something that they've wanted to do for a long time. And I would agree with the other guests that they do certainly want an end to the existing regime in Iran. However, I wonder if regime change is in some ways the wrong term. I don't think they want another leader of a kind of unified entity as an Iranian state. I think they want basically the dismantling or destruction of Iran as a kind of cohesive and unified state that could even have the potential to be a regional rival.
So
that's kind of the Syria model, right?
Regime collapse.
Regime collapse, regime disintegration, as we've seen in a number of other states there. I think the game is more to have no real intact regional rivals than to just say, we want a new head of government in Iran.
Tell me, Fawaz, what do you think leadership change would look like in Iran? Because some people are saying that it will be another Ayatollah. Others are saying that there is the crown prince, the son of the late Shah, Reza Pahlavi. He's been making a lot of noise saying that he wants to come back and claim what he believes is rightfully his. What do you think leadership change would look like?
It's very difficult for me to really envision a domestic alternative change. Because there are no local proxies in Iran, like the United States had in Iraq in 2003, and like NATO had in Libya in 2011. There is neither an alternative, basically, to the regime, domestic alternative or international alternative. I think Paul is absolutely correct. What Benjamin Netanyahu has been trying to do, whether in Gaza or in Lebanon, is to trigger civil strife and internal revolt. The idea is they really want disintegration. They want chaos. And at the end of the day, when we think of Iran, Iran is not a country that's really run by one strong man. Iran is deeply institutionalized. You have multiple institutions. Just to give your viewers a glimpse of what I mean. When Israel and the United States threatened to kill Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader, what did Ali Khamenei do? He transferred most of his authority to the National Security Council in Iran. That is a collective decision-making process. So you have in addition, you still have what I call a legitimate, a revolutionary legitimate base of support, even though we know that the Iranian regime is not very popular domestically. Millions of Iranians, particularly young men and women, would like the state to be out of their lives. They would like to breathe. They would like to have some freedom. In fact, Alex is absolutely correct. What we have seen in the past 2 days, more and more Iranians rallied around the flag. Iran is not a colonially constructed state like Israel and Lebanon and Syria. Iran is a civilizational state. You have between 90 million and 100 million Iranians. They're patriotic, they're proud, they're nationalistic, and they really rallied, many Iranians rallied around the flag, even though I think we need to talk about the oppressiveness of
But
the
just
Iranian
on that point,
domestic
Fawaz,
politics.
just on that point, are they scared of the regime? Clearly, many people are.
Of course, absolutely, and they should be. I mean, this is an oppressive autocratic regime, like most of the regimes in the Middle East. But remember, here you have a nuclear-armed state, Israel. According to American intelligence, Israel has between almost 100 nuclear devices, if not more. A nuclear-armed state attacking a sovereign state that does not really have nuclear weapons. This was a war of choice, illegal, unjust, and the Iranians felt angry. In fact, many Iranians, we have reports, many Iranians felt angry against their own regime because the Iranian regime did not really weaponize the nuclear program. What many Iranians want, they want a credible and effective deterrence, and in this particular sense, all roads lead to a nuclear deterrence if you really want to deter Israel and the United States from attacking Iran now or in the future.
Thanks, Fawaz. Paul, what do we know about the capabilities, the capacity of the leader, Ayatollah Khamenei? He's 86 years of age. I mean, how capable is this guy of leading a military, leading a country? Do we know much about his faculties?
Khamenei has, as just been said, has passed on much of his control. I think there is gossip talk within Iran that he already is no longer playing a central role in the leadership of the country. That is new, very new, in the last few days, and there's been a lot of talk about succession for many years. Some fear that succession will lead to some kind of internal strife. If there was succession at this point in the middle of a conflict with Israel, the succession would be extremely quick and smooth. I think that the Iranian government, as it currently is constituted, is probably stronger, ironically, today than it has been for a long time, partly because of this rally round the flag effect. So I think Iran is far from being counted out in this confrontation as we go forward.
Thanks, Paul. Edward, I just wanted to pick up on something that Reza Pahlavi, the son of the late Shah, has said this week. He believes Iran is at its Berlin Wall moment, that he believes collapse is imminent. He talks a good game. I mean, what right has this guy to return as a feasible leader? He's lived most of his life in the United States and France.
I think this is a part of a kind of broader trend of like people who feel entitled to leadership of a country on their sort of historical or familial basis, who don't live in the country, but then make these grandiose claims from abroad. So I wouldn't grant that very much legitimacy. As the other commentators have pointed out, there is this big rally around the flag effect, and there's a kind of irony that Israel wouldn't realize this because, of course, prior to October 7th, Israel itself has a lot of domestic strife. And what unifies Israeli society and what props up the Netanyahu government? It's the feeling of an external threat and an attack. That unifies that government. And so the ignorance that Israel now attacking Iran would not produce some degree of solidarity or at least unity, even if they don't love the government, but maybe they're even going to push it further to the right, as, again, we saw in Israel. So there's this almost like analogous effect happening with Israel's attack on Iran as happened with Hamas's attack on Israel, that somehow Israel seems to have not fully factored in.
Fawaz, there's a school of thought that thinks the second eldest son of the Ayatollah is best placed to take over from his father. How would that work? Is that just a given, or would he need significant support from, say, the Revolutionary Guard Corps?
Well, I think it's very difficult to really speculate on the potential successor to Ali Khamenei because you have multiple players. And I think we have to wait and see because, several names have been proposed in the past few years. My take on it, this is a collective decision. And I don't think we should expect any major transformation of Iran because the revolutionary legitimacy of the regime, we have not really seen any radical change in the ideological underpinnings of the regime. And this is really what matters, not personalities. I think our discussion, we've been talking really about Iran and focusing on Iran itself. I think we need to broaden the discussion itself and take a kind of stock of what's happening in the region itself. Benjamin Netanyahu is not just talking about Iran, is not just talking about Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu has been boasting about changing the face of the Middle East. Israel, a state, is acting like a mini empire, of course, with the support of the United States and Europe, most of European countries. And what we are seeing now in the region, Israel has mastered the art of making enemies. There is not even a single friend, not even one, that Israel has in the Middle East today. Think of Jordan and Egypt, the first two Arab states to basically sign peace treaties with Israel. Now, Egypt and Jordan are facing existential threats at home because of what Israel has been doing in Gaza and on the West Bank, and also violating the peace treaties with both Egypt and Jordan. Think about it. Even Turkey now. Turkey is standing up in order to challenge Israel, the hegemon. So at the end of the day, and I agree, it seemed to be, is that what Netanyahu has done, he has been accumulating what I call tactical victories. The question is, at the end of the day, could he translate those tactical, basically, victories into a strategic one? I doubt it very much, because he really is risking the very survival of Israel by pursuing a forever war against the entire region, not just the Palestinians or the Iranians.
Thanks, Fawaz. Paul, to you. So on that very point, has Netanyahu's aggression and bullying backfired?
Well, it hasn't yet, but I agree that every week that goes by, I think his position in the longer term gets weaker and weaker. But he's taking his country down with him too, and he's uniting the region against Israel. I think what we also, if we were to look back at Iran and the potential there, you've got a country that up until now has had quite a presence across the region. It's been attacked. It's been on the back foot. But I think where the Israelis and the Americans fail to realize is that just because somebody's on the back foot does not mean to say that they are down and out. And And there's some really quite fascinating things going on underneath the surface within Iran. There's been a lot of rapprochement, more friendly relations with their neighboring Arab states. There has been a reconciliation within Iranian politics between two factions that have been extremely hostile to one another: the international pan-Islamic movement led by the Ayatollahs and the Persian nationalists. As the next generation comes up, they do not attach to one strongly or the other strongly. They generally tend to have elements of both. So there is ideological change, but not dramatically, and in a way that leads to Iranian unity. And then the other thing I would say is that we can't know who will replace Khamenei. But what we can say is that whoever replaces Khamenei will be very close to the Revolutionary Guard Corps, and the Revolutionary Guard Corps has strengthened its role within the Iranian government, which I think again also points to greater unity than we've seen in the past.
Edward, to you, if leadership change happens in Iran, surely the United States ends up getting dragged into something for far longer than what President Trump initially envisaged.
It's difficult to see exactly what that would look like, because this is, gets to this kind of schizophrenic approach that Trump has taken, where, of course, he did support the Iraq War back in 2003, but campaigned on having not done so. And I think really wrote a lot of political success on opposing regime change, opposing interventions. That was his critique of Biden and then Harris in the most recent elections. And so you see him kind of pulled between these two instincts of being the tough guy willing to take the bold action and then wanting to be the deal maker. And so you kind of start out this whole episode as him as the deal maker, and then he wants to kind of bandwagon on to Israel's attacks once he realizes how successful those have been, at least, again, as others have said, in a tactical sense. And then now he's jumping back to the deal maker, just right before we started recording. He now is opposing regime change, it seems, and wants the parties to agree to this deal. And so you feel him pulled in these different directions. I have a hard time believing that there would be anything like a real long-term kind of boots on the ground invasion here, or kind of the regime change by force. Iran is about twice the size as Iraq, as others have said. It's a very sophisticated country. It has fairly strong institutions, great education. I think the right wing in America and maybe Israel wants to make it out to be like a mega Hamas or something, which it just isn't. It's a very sophisticated, very advanced country in a lot of ways, even if it trails Israel. And so I don't see the U.S. getting dragged in quite in the same way as we did about 2 decades ago.
Thanks, Edward. Fawaz, final point to you. Ayatollah Khamenei is now 86. He has ruled Iran for, 36 years. Does he go of his own volition quietly, or do you think Netanyahu and Israel will just keep going until they somehow force regime change?
If you ask me what are the major challenges facing Iran, I would say they are internal, not external. I think the Iranian government has to find a different social contract with its population, less intervention in the lives of everyday people, allow people to live free, in particular young men and women. You have a collapsed economy. 50% of Iranians live either in poverty or below the poverty line, in particular young Iranians. Unemployment is about 40%. Massive economic mismanagement. The American-led sanctions have pauperized Iran. The reason why Israel has been able to infiltrate the decision-making process in Iran because of the economic hardships. Many Iranians basically sell their services because they're on the verge of starvation. So not only you have political repression, you have economic collapse. The currency has collapsed. So the big question facing the Iranian leadership is not really who's going to succeed Ali Khamenei, is how could really Iran build new bridges to its young population? How can Iran renew its economy? with the American sanctions. And the question of the nuclear program itself is the heart of the debate. The West, the United States, and Europe will not allow Iran a free ride. They're going to keep pressuring Iran in order to give up its nuclear program. And if and when Iran decide to weaponize its program, if, which I think it's a very big if, I think it could trigger an all-American aerial warfare against Iran. So the challenges are mainly domestic, but the sanctions and the role of the United States and the West is very critical in basically either allowing Iran to recover or basically exerting more pressure and really bringing about more a waning of the relationship, the legitimacy between the Iranian government and its population.
Superb insight. Thank you, Fawaz Gerges, Paul Ingram, and Edward Knutson here in the studio with me. Thank you all. Remember, you can see more discussion and debate on our YouTube channel. Just search for Roundtable TRT World. But for now, from me, Enda Brady, and all the team here, goodbye and thank you for watching.